Okay, we're reconvening. If you would be so kind to come into the room and take your seats, then we will continue with more to come. The best is yet to come here at Clean Energy Day 2014. Can you tell the people outside we're starting? Would you mind telling them that? Thank you. Okay, so here we are in the afternoon. The first thing I want to show you is something that I didn't catch in the morning, and that is the 3 questions. Alex, can we see the 3 questions? Okay, now you guys had this on your phones, and you answered these questions. And I can't read the whole question, but installing smart grid innovations will, in the long run, looks like those are the choices. Yeah, better. Decrease customer, confidence? Cost. Have little net impact. Increase customer costs. 38 to 23. And there are other overruns, I guess that is. Okay, that's the first of the 3. The second of the 3. What is the second of the 3? If you want this, at home, put your email address in at the end of the program, and you'll get a report of everything that LiveSift has done. Okay, which photovoltaic integration statement is right? Is this a test? Is that what it is? It's a test. Okay, those are the reports. Looks like everybody agrees, or most everybody agrees, with increased measures to integrate PV 79%. Okay, that's the correct statement. Okay, and the third one, pick top actions to do in order of importance. That's interesting. So you rank that. Number 1, implement time of use pricing. So is that the feeling around the room? Focus conservation on high cost hours. That's close. Phase down solar incentives, interesting. Install electric water heater controls. Rate design, keep customers on grid. And require thermal storage, the least popular. Okay, anyway, that's the answers, you guys, to those questions at the end of the panel. Now it's time to hear about the experience of Hawaiian Electric Company, what has been happening with it this past year, and what they're planning for next year. And for that matter, what's happening on the Big Island from Jay Ignacio, president of Hawaii Electric Light Company on the Big Island. We've asked Jay to speak on the utility of the future. I guess that's not unlike the conference on Maui a month or 2 ago. The utility of the future, the view from the utilities perspective. A warm welcome for Jay Ignacio. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for flying over. Thank you for being part of this program.
Thank you, Jay.
I never met a Jay I didn't like.
Me too. My mother said she wanted to give me a name easy to spell. That's a true story. Well, I'll be busy with other things. That's all. Well, thank you for having me. I've got 15 minutes to tell you what the utility of the future will be like. And I'm pretty sure you're all anxiously waiting to see that master plan that's going to take us to the future. But I'm not going to do that today. I mean, you're going to have to wait till maybe August 26th when we file all the plans. But I want you to give maybe more of my personal experience, personal insight as to what's inside a utility man's mind. What drives the utility person today? And I think in the future utility, that's just as crucial as it is today. There we go. Okay, I think many of you had already seen these 2 egg drawings. Moving to the future, what this drawing shows is we need to change our mix of generation. That's one of the key strategies. Current use is fossil fuel, centralized generation, not as flexible as we need to be, and the grid moves one way. In the future, and you heard about it already, a lot of the discussions today, distributed generation. That's something very different for the utility, and the utility is going to have to make adjustments, going to have to make changes to accommodate that. Going forward, we're looking for renewables that can actually drive the cost down and still manage the power system. Now this slide, I'd like to speak for a while on it because this kind of give you a feeling for maybe what's inside my mind and my heart. On the left is, we label it past. It's the grid that we've been operating for many years. And I think the perception in this room is that that grid on the left is simplistic, right? It's antiquated. It needs to be abandoned. I tend to have a different feeling. My background is I'm an electrical engineer, born and raised in Hilo, moved to here, got educated at the University of Hawaii, and then moved to the mainland, worked in the aerospace industry for about 5 years. Came back, had my own small business, and then I joined up with the utility. And my concept going into the electric utility was, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. You know, it's just the electric utility. I've done aerospace. I'm going to teach these guys a little bit about new technology. I walked into Hawaii Electric Light Company at a time when we didn't have enough generation. We needed to rebuild most of the transmission, and all of the devices that protect our system needed to be changed out. We also needed to upgrade nearly 100% of our communication system. The existing grid is not simplistic. It is a very complex design. It's a great engineering feat. The complexity in the existing utility grid is way more than what I experienced in the aerospace industry. Basically, what I had done was satellite testing the Hubble Space Telescope. And someone said earlier, you know, the computer technology in your cell phone is much more than what used to land on the moon. Well, pretty much a lot of the technology that I had coming in was not as sophisticated as what we had to implement in the grid. And we spent the last 20, 24 years modifying that grid. And I spoke to one of our colleagues here who were with us during the times when we had rolling blackouts in the 1990s. And the comment today was, wow, I feel a little maybe uncertain, a little insecure in that we're retiring some of the units that we had used to make sure that we met peak. You know, so Mark Diller had said earlier that maybe we should relax reliability a little bit. Maybe we need to change. And maybe, but from a utility person going through that and taking this obligation, this duty to serve, that's part of our culture that's maybe a little bit difficult for us to let go of, because we're always going to have that duty, that obligation to serve. Going in the future, we're going to have to change things out. We're not going to be able to remain with this grid the way it is. It's going to have to change. But in the future, I don't think we're going to let go of serving our customers and trying to relax reliability. We're gonna work hard to find solutions that does both. In our society today, energy is extremely important. You get an approaching storm, right? Everyone goes home to hunker down. The utility goes out to work. And former Mayor Kim always used to tell me, he used to be the head of civil defense. He would always pull me on the side and say, Jay, you're the key. You're the key to keeping order in this society. If we have a big problem, you better have a good response. And I think the utility of today and the utility of the future are going to be the same. You're going to have one entity that the community looks toward to get that energy back. And I think that's a key element. Now, going to the future, we're going to have, I don't think we're going to abandon the existing grid. People may think, abandon it, you don't need it. I see it differently. I see the existing grid as being a solid platform for the grid of the future. Underlying whatever we do in the future, you're still going to need some central station. Not all, but some central station generation. You're still going to need your transmission. You're going to still need your distribution. But in the future, you're going to have much more modification and control on the distribution level. That's where a lot of the new technology is going to go in. We have the backbone for communications. We're going to have to upgrade that backbone in order to support the extensive communications that's going to occur on the distribution level. We're no longer going to have to think of operating the system with just central station generation. It's going to be a mix of central station and a lot of distributed generation. What is going to drive the changes? In my mind, it's going to be the customers. And I think some of the speakers earlier today alluded to that. It's what the customer desires is what's going to design the system. And what do our customers want? Whether it's today or far in the future, I think the cost of energy is one of the primary drivers. Everyone wants energy, but they want it at the lowest possible cost. They want to spend their money someplace else. They don't want to spend it on their electric bill. Over on the left, that pictorial, that represents the reliability and the lifestyle that electric energy provides. And if they're not talking about cost, they're going to talk about reliability. So far, my experience in the utility industry, reliability is extremely critical. Here you see a group of our customers watching a television set. If you ever had the lights go out during the Super Bowl, which I did, or you ever have the lights go out during Thanksgiving, then the customer is not going to be talking about the price. They're going to be talking about, we need this TV on right now. I've got 50 people here watching the Super Bowl and the lights went out. So customers, they do take reliability to heart. More recently and more what I see today is this middle pictorial, freedom. Our customers want choice. When I first started in utility, there was no internet. There was no strong desire for choice. Today, it is, I want to do things my way. I want the choice. I want choices for you. I want you to provide those choices to me so that I can choose. Right? Anytime we say no, and you know, the biggest issue we're facing now is integration of photovoltaics. Anytime we say no, that upsets the customer. They might not take the choice you give them, but they don't like not having options. So going forward, that freedom of choice is going to drive the formulation of the new utility. And then, of course, the last pictorial is green energy. People want to take care of the environment, especially in Hawaii. We choose to live right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. We want to take care of our home. Now, I started in 1990. We had rolling blackouts. We had a lot of work to do. And most of the solutions that we did were technical. And we could come to those solutions, figure out what is best for the customer on our own. Those days are gone. Now we have to take customer input. We have to learn from the customer, listen to the customer, and give them choices. And then the choices and the solutions that we offer them should also assist us with managing the power system. And that's the change in culture and philosophy that we need to embrace and move forward with. I also see transportation. There's going to be a blend or a more of a gray area between transportation and energy, whether it be electric vehicle transportation or maybe even hydrogen fueled transportation. And we already talked about some of the pilots with creating hydrogen using geothermal. I'm supportive of that. I'd like to see a little bit more work in that area. Even if we're not supplying directly the electrical energy to create the hydrogen, I'm still supportive of that. This is a breakdown of the renewable percentages. Statewide, 18%, ahead of pace. I think Will Wilson, where is he? He's not here, still eating, but he had mentioned that Hawaii Electric Light is at 50%. Well, maybe he's exaggerating a little bit. You know, we're at 42%, but up to this time this year, we're at about 48%. We're very fortunate to have geothermal energy on our island. And I think geothermal can be the kind of energy source that we're looking for. Lower cost, firm, so you have a much longer availability, 24-hour-a-day availability. And at least the new form of geothermal, it can also help us manage the grid. Okay, this is the one that I get all the time. Why can't I connect my PV? We're currently leaders with respect to interconnecting PV. Already you see at Hawaii Electric, 11% of the customers. On Hawaii Island, 8%. We work hard to figure out technical solutions to allow customers to interconnect. I just don't want people to have the perception that we just don't want to interconnect customers, we're trying to block them, we're protecting our business. That's not it. I've been working in this utility for many years. The concerns that we have with respect to adding on a lot of distributed generation are real. They're real concerns, and we've been, the word was used earlier, incrementally finding solutions. It would be real easy if somebody else was leading and had found the technical solutions and all we do is just adopt them, but we're not there. We're actually leading the industry with respect to photovoltaic energy on a system-wide basis and also on certain particular circuits. We send our technical people throughout the world looking for solutions, trying to stay ahead of the game. And more recently, we're working closely with all of our solar energy partners to find solutions. So this is the growth of photovoltaic at Hawaii Electric. And this kind of adds to the point of what I said earlier, is that customers are going to drive what the utility needs to do in the future. And part of the key is to try and stay ahead and see what customers want. We are at a time where we do have system issues. If anyone had taken the time to read the Hawaii Electric Light power supply plant, it has a good description as to what's occurring on the system. It's a little difficult read, but if you get through it and you have questions, you can call me up and we can go over it with you. But we need to work with the industry on addressing these system level issues. We have 330 megawatts on the system. And what collectively, a lot of small systems, what they do is they operate as one large system. And we're going to have solutions and have the photovoltaic systems interconnected operate as if they're operating just like any other power plant. We're going to be able, if there's disturbances on the system, they're going to have to ride through those disturbances. And in the future, we're probably going to have to control many of these systems and not just allow any output that they produce, but we're going to have some type of control over the system. In conclusion, it's a photograph of one of our employees. And I think when we talk about the utility of the future, we cannot ignore our employees. we have that culture of service in the utility. I mean, this is one of our linemen who was recently promoted to supervisor. He was actually trained on the Big Island, moved back to Oahu. But they have that culture in them, our employees, to go out there and serve the people, whether it's raining, storm, lightning. I mean, that's the culture, and that culture, I believe, is going to be in the current utility and the utility of the future.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, now for the county and neighbor island perspective that we always want to know about. Mayor Alan Arakawa, who has been a mayor a couple of times in Maui, and is starting another term has started another term in 2011. He's been very active in working to get Maui County off oil. Has some innovative ideas, as you know. So let's hear it from Mayor Arakawa on the view from the counties on clean energy.
Well, thank you very much. I have to make a real quick decision. I have a 15-minute prepared speech, which my staff worked very hard on. And I'm debating about putting it on the side and really just talking to you about some of the things that I think we really need to be able to consider. You know, looking at the discussion that has happened this morning, I think that the time has come for us to have some real serious discussions as to what the real goals are and what we have to be able to accomplish working in this field of energy. I mentioned a little bit earlier that we need to work to 100% alternative energy. And there are some tweets back to my office already asking, what are you talking about? Let's look at things very realistically. Photovoltaic, is the technology new? No. Wind generation, is the technology new? No. Almost every form of energy that we're looking at right now, the technology isn't new. It's old technology. It's a question of how we're going to be able to integrate that technology and how we're going to be able to find a way to balance the cost. And cost is a big word here. How we're going to be able to balance the economics and the cost of being able to work the systems. Do we have to have just one electric company? Obviously not. Maybe it is time to deregulate and to consider deregulation of the electric companies and be able to work with many smaller companies to be able to get guaranteed power to various parts of our community. Kauai has already done it. Big Island is talking about doing it in parts of Big Island. Maybe that discussion needs to happen, and wheeling needs to be brought to attention again and having a discussion as to whether or not that's something that should be allowed. Sharing lines. We need to be able to look very, very seriously at the economics and how we're pricing. Quite frankly, when we're looking at the pricing that we have right now, you know, why is our electric bill averaging about 4 times higher than the mainland? Is it because we're importing foreign fuel, petroleum? Is it that cost of shipping that makes it so difficult? Is it because the pricing is so unstable that we have to be able to balance our costs and try to be able to take into consideration the different fluctuations? If that is the reason, and that's a justification for having such high electric bills, then if we were to be able to produce 100% of the power locally, utilizing the wind, virtually all the different types of energy that we have, from biomass to hydrogen to hydropower, all the different types, we produce it locally, wouldn't we eliminate the cost factor of shipping? When I look at the cost of putting together the transmission of lines from Kauai, Oahu to the Big Island, the distance that we're talking about, is that distance so insurmountable that Japan to Okinawa or any of these other foreign countries that we have different kinds of power transmission lines or telecommunication lines, is it so insurmountable that we cannot travel this distance is not done throughout the world. None of those things are impossible to do. None of those things are not doable. Matter of fact, if you go to some of the foreign countries, they're making bridges across channels to islands, that are just as great a distance as we are talking about trying to put an undersea cable. But the technology is there to do it. The companies that are there that are willing to do it. And a lot of it just has to do with how are we going to be able to pay for it, what are the costs. So we need to really look at these things seriously and start looking at what do we really want to be able to accomplish in this field. When we start looking at the fact that we were spending somewhere between $6 and $8 billion to bring in fuel to Hawaii, if we can keep that money locally, circulate that money within the producers locally, that's one of the biggest economic development engines we can probably get in this state in the next 20 years. And it's very doable. When we start talking about why we should produce 100% of the power here and not be thinking about working with the big oil companies to substitute foreign fuel and diesel and petroleum and bringing in gas from someplace else. We really need to consider, is bringing that gas in from someplace else going to take the jobs that we could create here locally away from us? The companies that will be able to hire people, the economy that we can have in state. Was that what we're jeopardizing? And I think we are. That opportunity should belong to the local communities. Those jobs should be created. The ability to sustain our own electric power, our own petroleum, shall we say, transferring that power to alternative energies, should rest within the state, within the people of the state. Should we always have to worry about, well, if there's a war, is our power going to be disrupted? If something were to happen, we're going to be able to have power within our communities? If we produce it locally, we won't have that challenge. So when we balance off the positives and the negatives, I think the time has come for a community discussion as to whether it's more beneficial to be dependent on somebody else or to be self-sufficient here. And I really believe that the population within our state, we're going to say, let's be self-sufficient. Let's create the power we can, and we do have within the state, the ability we have. Let's all get together and figure out how we're going to do it. Is the technology so different? When you start talking about mixing different kinds of power in a grid, on the mainland, some places have gas, some places have wind generation, some places have petroleum base, some people use hydro. There are all different kinds of power being mixed together in all the different grids, right? Is this something new? Absolutely not. Does not any one of you believe that the different powers are being mixed in different grids currently? It's all a question of how we look at what we have and how we balance the technology that is available into making it usable. For certain, if we're using old technology and we're trying to then integrate newer uses into that old technology, it's not going to blend. There should be no power plant right now in the state of Hawaii that is not computer-driven, that balancing is not being done by computers. There should be no manual manipulation of the mixing of different kinds of alternative energy. It should all be done and controlled by computers. But is it being done? No. Is there an opportunity for us to modernize our system as we go through? Absolutely. Does anyone believe that if we didn't send this challenge to our computer classes at UH, that they couldn't find a solution to this within a semester? I believe they could. Fixing the computer system, being able to write the program, being able to figure this out, is not insurmountable. I just don't believe we have the political will to do it right now. Nor are we willing to face the politics of what we've had in the past. We have a system that's been here for generations. We have a system that has been ingrained within all of us. And there's not the political will to change systems right now. But can it be done? I absolutely believe it can be done. Should it be done? I absolutely believe it should be done. But it's going to take everybody working together, looking at the goals, coming to 100% alternatives. Now, I've been listening to some of the discussion. Well, what about the cars? That's why we have biodiesel. That's why we're creating different kinds of fuels, even for the vehicles. And when you look at all of the military ships that are here, even atomic power is being used throughout the state in a lot of these ships. Is it doable? Absolutely. Do we have the will to do it is really the question. As a group, do we look at this $6 to $8 billion that we spend outside of the state, and do we say, that's the goal that we want? We want to keep spending the money outside of the state. We want to be dependent on someone else, or do we want to be able to shift and say we want to be able to keep that money within the state? We want to have our people doing those jobs. We want to be able to develop those industries within our state, and we want to have the dependability and security of being self-sufficient. I think if you poll the public, you're going to find they want the self-sufficiency, and they want us to do the alternative energies within the state. And it's all doable. I have yet to find someone who will tell me that none of the technology that exists currently, none of these areas are brand new, that it can't be done. Because we can find examples of how all these alternative energies are being used worldwide, and sometimes for generations it's already been used. When we start looking at the benefits to our community, one of the things that I've been able to do is travel to different countries. And last year, about a year and a half ago, I went to China and Shanghai. The smog in those countries, the carbon footprint, are getting so heavy, people have to wear respirators almost every day. I just got back from Korea a couple months ago. The smog is moving all the way down into Korea now. Is that the legacy we want to leave for our kids? If we don't remove the carbon footprint, we don't take care of the environment, we don't change our economy so that we become self-sufficient, we're not going to leave the kind of community that our kids want, nor that we want our kids to have. So I'm going to ask all of you, let's really start looking at this. There are a lot of potential changes that we can do. Just for example, and I'll use two examples. The telephone. Some of us were around when telephones used to hang on the wall, and telephone company was untouchable, right? And we thought one company had to do it all. Well, today there's a myriad of companies, all different kinds of devices. I can't even call them phones anymore. And the technology has advanced so that many of these types of devices operated by all these different companies work together in one integrated system. When we start looking at these kinds of things, is it doable? Absolutely. Can we do it? The question is going to be within our minds, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to sort of cut this a little bit short. It's going to be whether we have the will to do it. And I know there's going to be a lot of challenges, there's going to be a lot of questions, and people are going to go, well, but this rule and that rule and this rule. The rules that were created by man were created generally because there was a reason for those rules to be implemented. And if we don't change the rules to adjust to how society changes and how time changes, we're going to fall further and further behind. I believe we have to change some of the rules that we have. We have to start looking at new visions on how we want to apply things. Because the future is going to be very different. You're already seeing prototypes of cars that drive themselves, tractors that are on GPS that go straight line for, literally the entire fields, and not even having a body in them. When we start looking at the future of transportation within the state, it's not going to be each of us individually driving cars. It's going to be different systems that are going to have to be worked out. And when we start looking at all the different vehicles, different kinds of fuels are going to be necessary. The same is true with our electric power. I think as we start looking with open minds at all of the things that are occurring, we're going to realize that almost nothing we see as an absolute reality today may be the reality of tomorrow. So with that, I'll say, that's my vision, my view, is we need to change the entire system, and we need to really look seriously at it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Arakawa. One of the things that strikes me today is that we have been talking about being in a transformation. A transformation of our society, our systems, our daily lives. But somehow there's a change happening on top of the transformation. The transformation is itself being changed. How do you like that? I get that from you. Okay. Let's move on to our first panel of the afternoon. Next couple of hours, we're going to focus on 4 areas we feel are critical to making us a state of clean energy, even more. The first panel is front and center in the community with concerns from residents who want PV on their roofs and cannot pay the existing electricity rates. So are the utilities doing enough? We've asked PUC Chair Mina Morita to give us an overview of the issues. Joe Viola from Hawaiian Electric Company and Mike Yamani from Kauai Island Utility Cooperative to give us the utilities perspective, and Warren Bollmeyer to give us the community perspective. Everyone knows Mina Morita, our PUC chair, been working hard on clean energy from way back when she served as chair of the House Energy and Environmental Protection Committee. She has had a number of achievements and challenges since she was appointed chair of the PUC in 2011. First, how about a warm welcome for Chair Mina Morita to start off with an overview of the issues. It's so nice to see you here, Chair.
Thanks, Jay. Good afternoon. I think throughout the country, every morning I come to work and I get these little energy clippings that I subscribe to. So we know throughout the country there's a keen awareness that our energy system is changing. Utility, policy, and regulatory leaders, along with business interests promoting new technologies and services, are having deep discussions in defining the utility of the future. And as you heard from earlier speakers, in Hawaii, this is not an abstract concept, but we're living it real time. So with the high penetration of renewables onto our electric system, our high energy cost, changing customer expectations, and evolving technologies, we are at the bleeding edge of this energy transformation. And as you heard from Jim Lazar this morning, failure is not an option. Well, the title of this section is The Utilities Getting Its Act Together. I wanted to share with you my key objectives for the Commission first in keeping its act together. So I have 4 main objectives that I want to accomplish at the Commission. First is to set the standard to ensure that a regulated company's performance is aligned with the public interest to provide efficient, safe, and reliable services in the most cost-effective way. The second is to modernize and reorganize the Commission as needed to adapt to changes in technology, markets, economic conditions, consumer needs, and environmental concerns, and mandated policies, again, to serve the public interests. The third is to create or increase the transparency of the regulatory process and public access to the Commission to demonstrate that the Commission is fair, independent, intelligent, and resourceful in carrying out its responsibilities. And last, to create an environment conducive for a healthy and sustainable economy. You know, as many of you already know, 3 months ago, the Commission issued 4 orders providing major policy, resource planning, and operational directives to the Hawaiian Electric companies. These orders provide strategic guidance the HECO companies must take to modernize the electricity system, embrace cost-effective clean energy opportunities to stabilize and lower customer bills, improve interconnection of customer-sided PV, and expand choices for customers to manage their energy use. Attached to the IRP, the Integrated Resource Plan order, was a white paper entitled Commissioner's Inclinations on the Future of Hawaii's Electric Utilities. This white paper outlined the vision, strategies, and regulatory policy changes required to align HECO Company's business model with customers' changing expectations and state energy policy, and provide specific guidance for future energy planning and project review, including strategic direction for future capital investments. Core to the orders are 4 major improvement action plans. The first is the power supply improvement plans due on August 26th. The major objective of the PSIP is to detail strategies and action plans to reduce generation energy costs and accommodate additional renewables beyond the 40% RPS requirement, modernize the generation fleet, and review generation dispatch operations to ensure least cost and the most efficient operations, among other things. The second is a distributed generation interconnection plan, also due on August 26, requiring detailed strategies and action plans to expand distributed circuit capacity to safely and reliably interconnect solar PV systems, and also an advanced distributed energy resource technology plan to utilize technologies such as smart inverters, customer-sided storage options, and electric vehicles. Also being required is a distribution circuit monitoring program to measure real-time technical parameters to ascertain whether high penetrations of solar PV create safety, power quality, or reliability problems. The third is a demand response portfolio plan due on July 28th, and this requires the HECO companies to overhaul its existing demand response programs into a single demand response portfolio to comport with existing and future planning and operation of generation and distribution systems and the future smart grid. And the fourth was the Molokai Reliability Improvement Report, which was filed on May 28th. This order required Maui Electric Company to report on its corrective actions to restore reliability to previous levels and to demonstrate solar PV systems may be interconnected without adversely affecting customer reliability. So I'm not going to delve any more into the specifics of these orders because both Hawaiian Electric companies and KIUC presentations will touch on their perspectives of the order and how they intend to measure up in moving forward. However, I think we all know and understand that oversight of Hawaii's utilities require the Public Utilities Commission to have adequate resources to build its capacity to regulate effectively and keep its autonomy to make well-informed decisions. So 11 years ago, on July 11, 2003 to be exact, the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum released a report entitled Hawaii's Energy Utility Regulation and Taxation, prepared by Carl Freeman and Jim Lazar. I'm sort of sorry that I didn't think about this sooner, but it would have been interesting to develop a scorecard of all the action items that were recommended in the report and how we measure up to date. But all I can do is update you on one particular recommendation. And that recommendation was take the PUC out from under budget and finance. And the report concluded that, and I quote from it, "It is well recognized by the stakeholders that the oversight and management of the PUC by the Department of Budget and Finance creates internal conflicts in which the revenue sources available to the PUC to support the regulatory functions are diverted to support state general fund functions. One way to address this would be to transfer the oversight of the PUC to a different department of state government, or to let the PUC stand on its own for administrative purposes. If the special fund revenues intended to finance the PUC and the Division of Consumer Advocacy are restricted to use for these purposes, the current placement of the PUC under the Department of Budget and Finance may be less of an issue." So this past legislative session, Senator Baker, with the support of her colleagues, introduced and the governor signed into law Act 108, which mandated the transfer of the commission from Budget and Finance to the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs to be completed by June 1st, 2015. The significance of this law, and I'm paraphrasing the Director of Budget and Finance, removes the PUC from the bean counters to a department that may be more philosophically aligned and that understands the regulation of the private sector. So as you are all well aware, the PUC is at a critical juncture as we prepare to receive and analyze the power systems improvement plans, as well as the other planning documents that the orders require. Any disruptions, inaction, lack of political will to move forward with the transfer could affect the timeliness to affect Hawaii's energy transformation. Together, we have worked for more than a decade to address fundamental regulatory needs. Let's not have inadequate resources and departmental delays for the Commission and the Division of Consumer Advocacy be the barriers in affecting Hawaii's energy transformation, especially when there is adequate funding collected from the public service tax to address these important issues. This is one area this forum and its stakeholders have consistently been the watchdog and supportive throughout the forum's existence. I hope the Commission can count on your support, the forum's support, as the Commission makes this important administrative transfer from Budget and Finance to DCCA. Thank you.
Will the other members of the panel please come up? That's Joe Viola, Mike Yamani, Warren Bohlmeyer. Okay, as you can see, you can ask questions. So the questions are 10 now. Let's see how many questions we can do. And remember, too, that we're broadcasting this to Bulgaria and everywhere in the world by way of Think Tech Radio. The audio signal is going out right now. So if you know somebody in Bulgaria, call them. Tell them they can listen. Okay, have you decided on a sequence? I showed Joe first.
Okay, I will go first.
I always thought I was the last.
Save the best for last. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Joe Viola from Hawaiian Electric Company. I'm the Vice President of Regulatory Affairs. Okay, sorry. And again, good afternoon. I'm Joe Viola, Vice President of Regulatory Affairs from Hawaiian Electric Company. And I would like to talk a little bit about the Hawaiian Electric Company's response to the Commission's April 28th decisions and orders and the inclinations in there. As Chair Morita said, it was we view that it I think as the commission did, as a call to action. It requires, it's a fairly tall order. Chair Morita listed some of the deliverables we have. We filed 5 of them already, but I think the more significant ones are coming next week and in August. It's a lot of work. I think what it does is call on us to take a comprehensive, essentially 360-degree review of our business and operations, and really question how we're doing things and how we, what's working right, what's not working, what do we need to do to change to move into the future. It's all basically an all-hands-on-deck approach. Full executive engagement. Literally every week, every Friday or Monday, our executive group gets together to review status on where we're at, discuss the issues, and discuss where we're going. We're moving fast, but we do see alignment with the general principles stated by the Commission in its orders. We're utilizing a wide array of consultants to help us finish our work. We couldn't do this alone. We're using the consultants to come in, obviously bring their expertise, but bring a fresh perspective. Have them challenge our assumptions, and we'll challenge theirs if they have a different assumption coming in from a different jurisdiction. But they'll help us get to the finish line. We will get there. And the way I review I'm sorry. What I've been kind of saying, the deliverables that we will be filing, and the significant ones in August, I really consider those to be kind of the end of the beginning. The end of the beginning. Once we file those, we understand the Commission will open up dockets to review those. But it is the beginning of a process that we think we have to continue. It's a collaborative process. Obviously, there are a lot of stakeholders who have very strong interest in what the utility does. We are midstream right now, literally on a daily basis. We're working on our plans to meet a filing deadline. But I believe there's promise. We do see a future in which we can incorporate a significant amount of renewable energy and ultimately reduce overall system cost. It'll take a lot of time. Well, it will take time. It will take creativity. It will certainly take collaboration. But we're firmly committed to getting there. I think above all, we understand from the Commission's orders that there has to be a sense of urgency. We agree with that. As we all know, technology is advancing literally faster than it has in the history of the world every day. We have to keep up with that. Utilities are generally not probably considered to be the most dynamic, fast-moving organizations, but we have to be. We have to change with the times. We're committed to do that. We recognize that. We understand that. We have to do that. Is it painful? A little bit in the short term. Is it positive? I think it is. Are we going to get to where we need to go? That's the question to be answered. I believe we will. There'll be some bumps along the way. There may be some reasonable differences of opinions on how we get there, but the dialogue that has begun and is continuing is a healthy one for the state of Hawaii. One other document, although it's not specifically a deliverable, it is expressed in the Commission's orders that we have to really look at our business model. Will the utility continue to have a sustainable business model? And I think we agree that if things stay the same, we're in jeopardy. Things are moving fast. We have to adjust. So we are in the process of considering not only technical solutions to comply with, to meet the demands of our system. We have to look at our business model. Should we be, should we consider the products and offerings that we're providing today? Jay Ignacio mentioned, a few other folks mentioned, customers want choice. I think the old traditional model has been essentially a simple one. Even though our system is complex, Jay, the model had been fairly simple. Folks sign up for service. We provide them service from essentially a central plant and deliver it to their home. But people want different choices now. They want to be able to actively manage their use of electricity, to understand it, to be able to respond accordingly and make wise, informed choices for themselves. So the central, we're actually developing at the same time we're developing our response for the power supply improvement plans and distributed generation plans. What we're calling kind of a central strategy, and this is kind of our overarching, I would say, an umbrella to guide all the individual plans. It's I think one of the challenges we have before us is to make sure that while we're developing individual solutions, that they match up with an overall plan to get us to the utility of the future. So that plan is actually, we're saying we've employed kind of a clean slate approach. That's really looking. We said, okay, you can look at what you have now and build upon it, or you can look at it the other way. Let's look out into the future. Let's say if we were operating from a clean slate, how would we design a utility that we think would be responsive to the needs of the people in Hawaii and manage all the various interests that are implicated: cost, reliability, customer choice. So we really looked at kind of a 2030 horizon, about 15 years out. And in devising our plans, we thought, okay, where do we want to be? Let's start from there. Where we would like to see the utility? What do we think the best model would be in 2030? And start there. And that requires us to say not only, okay, what are the technical solutions? What are our business models? What will our offerings be? How do we control costs? How do we manage all the many challenges we have in terms of integrating more renewables, providing renewable service, managing cost? And I think so. Essentially what we're doing is looking at things both ways. The power supply improvement plans will look at what we have and how we get to that future. But we didn't want to be constrained on how we looked at things and where we arrived. So we're employing that approach. That central strategy will be incorporated to varying degrees in our filings, but that's essentially what's guiding us right now. And literally, as I've mentioned, we're developing that on a daily basis. But we are taking some actions already. Well, we have been taking actions to address, I think, some of the critical elements and the guidance we got from the Commission. Obviously, we need to, we believe, lower and provide more stable energy bills. So we've, Mayor Arakawa noted before, and others obviously know that the biggest component of our electric bills are fuel costs. So we're actively underway to pursue an option to bring liquid natural gas into Hawaii. It's a cleaner, cheaper fossil fuel. It's a fuel, but we consider that to be a bridge. That's not in place of renewable energy, but we think we will need into the future some level of generation for liquid fuels. We have an RFP out for a containerized option. We got the bids in. We're evaluating those. We see those as very promising. At the same time, we continue to pursue our partnership with Hawaii Gas to look for a bulk or a longer-term solution to bring in liquid natural gas. We think the containerized option for liquid natural gas, shows promise. We may be able to get it into the islands in the 2016 to 2017 time frame. That will have an immediate impact on lowering costs. The bulk solution is probably a few more years out because it has different permitting requirements, but we even see that in the 20 to 2022 time frame. At the same time, we're actively acquiring and contracting for utility-scale renewable energy. We have before the Commission an application for Kahuku Wind Project. That's 24 megawatts of wind. Mililani Solar is 20 megawatts of PV. We have what we've called waiver projects, but 9 projects before us collectively proposing utility-scale photovoltaics for totaling over 240 megawatts of PV. The utility itself has proposed its own PV project, Kahe Solar. We're also deactivating our own fossil units. We've deactivated 2 this year. That's the Honolulu 8 and 9 units. We'll deactivate 2 more in the 2016 time frame. And overall, our use of oil in the 2008 to 2013 time frame has actually declined from about 15%. Now, I'm running out of time a little bit. Obviously, modernizing our grid is essential. We see through the plans that we're developing, we're firm believers energy storage will play a critical role in that. Demand response will play a critical role in that. I think Mike and others will be talking about smart grid. We see a central role for our smart grid technologies to increase customer choice, actually improves reliability, and I think ultimately will help us understand and plan for and integrate renewable energy quicker. With that, I see I'm running out of time, but thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Imani, Chief of Operations for KIUC. So I'm going to talk something a little different. You got the briefing from Jim Kelly about what we're doing from renewables. I'm going to talk about technology, but not as in like PV technologies. I'm going to talk about technologies that give our members a better experience dealing with utilities on a day-to-day basis. A lot of people talk about disruptive technologies. I'm going to talk about enabling technologies from a utility standpoint. Basically giving member more payment options, giving them a better idea of their applications, where it stands, outage notifications, and how we're going to get there. And also with this technology, and there's going to be a lot of things going on internally as far as improving internal efficiencies within our own processes utilizing these technologies. So first of all, I want to start by, as you know, we completed a rollout of 30,000 smart meters. And basically now we can turn on and turn off people's power when we want to. We can read without sending meter readers. And that's just the core functions of this AMI. The AMI is basically, it's like the iPhone. You can call, you can receive calls, and you can text. What we're looking at, the next step is all the apps that go along with iPhone. How are we going to really leverage this AMI data so that we can have the customer experience, a better experience when dealing with utilities as far as applications for power, disconnects, or outage notifications. The other thing that leveraging this AMI data will do will allow us to evaluate different rate options. When you think about this AMI system, we're talking about 30,000 meters collecting 15-minute data for each meter 24 hours a day, obviously a voluminous amount of data. And our system right now, it's a core system that meant for meter reading and turn-offs and turn-ons. What we really need is a database system that will house this data and make it more easily accessible to evaluations on rate options. Other thing it will give us an idea of doing is looking at increasing renewable penetrations. Right now, I can look at a meter to see that this customer is exporting power this time of the day. With what we're calling an MDMS, a meter data management system, I'd be able to look at all the PV customers and aggregate total all the PV export at a certain time of day. So obviously a lot of data, leveraging this AMI data to really help us evaluate the system and circuit penetration. Another thing leveraging this AMI data will allow us to do is increase energy efficiency in demand response programs. Obviously we have our RF mesh system at radio control. Right now all it's controlling is the meters. Once more vendors tag along to this RF mesh system, we'll be able to utilize more technologies where it'd be more seamless and not so much custom as far as people adding on equipment to the system where they can talk to either the meters via Zigbee or the RF mesh directly from the utility standpoint. And of course, my favorite is the faster outage detection and notification. We're already using that right now. On my phone, I can get a notification if my house is out of power. But right now, I don't want that. I filter it out to like 10 or more customers. So I get emails right now that 10 or more meters are out of power. But we really want to leverage that data so that it becomes more system-wide, accessible to all the people in our company. So what's the plan? We got a 3-year plan. I just talked to our CEO last week about this plan. Phase 1, get our MDMS online by year end. So we're looking at, and this, for people doing MI, this really is the add-on. It's a necessary add-on when you have all this data. If you really want to enable accessibility by other systems, integration from other systems, you really need a data management system that's going to have this data available. So we're planning on having an MDMS system online by year end, which will give us a lot more tools to evaluate circuit penetration, rate options, different time of use rates, and kind of play with the numbers based on all the data. Our second step, right now, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we made a choice to have a different financial system and a different customer information system. And at that time, that was the prudent thing to do. Right now, with technology and looking at different vendors and how they're leveraging technology to increase the member satisfaction, we're going to go common platforms. So we're going to combine our consumer information system in the same platform as our financial system. That'll definitely increase internal processes. You might not see that from an external standpoint, but as far as timeliness and accuracy of data, that's going to improve that dramatically. The other things that will come along with the new consumer information system we're looking at, which is called the customer care and billing, is prepay options, prepay calculators that will allow people to say, if I want to prepay in advance, I paid $100. How much of my $100 do I have left in a month? Do I have to go to a kiosk and put in more money where the meter can automatically stay on? Or depending on the policies developed by our board of directors, obviously that's an involved process on when you'll turn off somebody or leave them on based on the prepay function. Obviously, payment by your phone. People are doing it with their bank right now where they can make a payment through the iPhone. We're definitely looking at that, whether it's a web portal, iPhone. Other things is looking at kiosks. We want to bring a kiosk into our place where somebody can come in and pay it cash. You see that at Home Depots and Walmarts are doing that now where they're kind of kind of directing you. The airlines started that. People were kind of adverse to doing that, but that's really utilizing technology, streamlining internal efficiencies to maximize the work product. We're a small company, 140 employees. We really got to maximize technology to be efficient and more productive as possible. So this new CIS system, we're looking at online August 2015 with all the features shortly to follow. We're really excited about this function. Other things that will be in there is the call capture, which is like your integrated voice response where we can capture calls and record them and kind of make that customer experience a lot more friendly. Other things, bill print, DocuVault functions where we can take images of applications and the CSRs can pull them up while they're talking to the customer. It's all about getting that customer experience as positive as possible. Jay mentioned there's reliability, green, cost. There's a lot we can do, but there's only so low we can go just because we live in Hawaii. There's a cost to renewables, there's a cost to reliability, and it's a matter of now we're looking at, well, we got all this data, how can we get that experience to the customers so that while they know they're paying a higher rate compared to the nation, that experience is still positive and they kind of know that, hey, this utility's got their act together. So hopefully that helps. Thank you.
Change is tough. I'm not sure who said this, but the Stone Age probably didn't end because they ran out of stones, and I suspect we won't run out of oil before it's the end of the oil age. Keep in mind, as we went through the industrial age, we started with things like wood and eventually moved to coal and oil and for electricity, and then the next best thing was nuclear, then we went back to coal and oil, and then to natural gas, but this all was within the happy spot of the utilities. The word disruptive was mentioned earlier, and I think that's one of the biggest issues for the utility paradigm is they moved from being, 120 years ago, the innovators, because government didn't want to get in the electricity business, to now more like a bureaucracy. So I totally appreciate their situation. Next, I have to talk about a disclaimer. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the community, Jay. I'm basically speaking on the behalf of myself, and some of this may coincide with some of my members, and when I see somebody squirming, then I'll know that's not what they want me to say. As I looked at the rulings, I was trying to think, well, is this really a roadmap, or is it something else? Is it a roadmap we want, or is it really a blueprint? Then, as I looked at my talk this morning, that was kind of like a blueprint because I had it all charted out. So the charts are all there. This is what I got now. This is more like a roadmap, and it's going to take me to a couple forks here depending on how the time goes, and then I'm going to divert from there. On the other hand, maybe we need both. So I'm thinking about the roadmap as kind of a process-oriented thing. We get to several forks in the road, but in the meantime, we need some substance. So like Jay was saying, maybe we can start talking about a potential blueprint for the utility of the future. So then I said, what is utility of the future? And I'm still working on that, but I had to start with the fact that traditionally electricity has been a commodity. Now is electricity becoming a service? I think it is, and that's just the traditional electricity just maybe one of several services that consumers might want, and that kind of leads us into a whole new paradigm. Then I said, well, but let's talk a little bit more. A quick sidebar. What is a possible future utility look like? Jay gave us kind of a sense of that. I think it's clear, probably everybody would agree, the grid's, or let's call it the system. The grid will probably still be there, but I want us to think more about a system that it becomes maybe more like the traditional grid or the traditional utility backup. The traditional grid becomes maybe more like a backbone, or maybe a better analogy, and since I'm not a politician, I have to think about this. A tree, a trunk, okay? So think of the backbone as a trunk. You got all these branches going out, and that's where the distributed generation is going to be. On the customers, they're going to have the option, customers said they're going to have the option to implement energy efficiency and renewable options of their choice. They can stay on and hopefully support the grid. That's probably a good result, but they can opt out. And as Hunter Levin said, if the utility doesn't keep me happy, then I'll just leave. That was from the Maui conference, by the way. Now, utility scale, what we call megawatts and above, 1 megawatt and above, is going to be more centralized and of course renewable. I'm talking about a 100% renewable system. So to make this all happen, keep the grid reliable, we're going to have sophisticated operational protocols and ancillary services to eliminate the curtailment of renewables and keep the grid reliable. In that case, we need a lot of bulk storage. We heard some of that. Demand response and inverters. Now, moving forward back to the question of what getting the Utilities Act together, I don't see maybe that's even the best topic. I think it's a system as like now that we think we're moving to more of a utility, it's going to be a service company, but they're not going to provide all the services. So who is going to provide all the services? Well, the trunk, maybe that is the job of the incumbent utility, and they're responsible for maintaining grid reliability, operating the grid. But the branches, those are going to be all the DG, their customers, and potentially more independent power producers. And this is going to be primarily industry. We're going to hopefully resolve all the socioeconomic issues along the way, and that we'll find as we go along that our energy costs become largely fixed because we've eliminated variable fuel costs. Next thing I was thinking about, how do we get from A to B? Maybe we could start with B as a more meaningful discussion on what it is we really want. I think Mayor Arakawa mentioned that. And so, given the time available, I'm going to kind of focus on what should be the role of the utility, and I'm going to say guided by the Commission. And so think behind everything I say about the utility, somewhere along the line, the Commission's going to have to say, okay, that's good. So what is the role? And when I was a kid, you'd say that's the $64 question. For those of you that there weren't kids in the 50s, you can just Google it. So what I think has happened with the PUC's rulings and the IRP inclinations, which we wholeheartedly thank them for, is that I think it points us in a direction. It's like a mid-course change pointing us towards the future. And so, one, we've got to finally figure out how to do planning right, and in the planning process, maybe we come up with this combination of what the blueprint is for the future and the roadmap on potentially how to get there. So I like to think of it as not waiting for things to happen, but inventing the future, if you will. And will IRP continue? I think it will, but will it continue in the same way? Starting right now, the utilities are all supposed to come in with resource plans. I think, I don't know, without asking Mina, maybe she can respond to this later, is, the resource plan now becomes, I think, a really important document if it does undergo the appropriate amount of review with all stakeholders, and furthermore that it becomes legally binding. And in one of our dockets called affectionately decoupling, we're talking about performance incentives. Maybe the performance plan that these resource plans become kind of like the umbrella, and you can evaluate how the utility's doing, and in my opinion, then if they're doing a better job of getting us farther down to our future faster, then their rate of return, for example, could be adjusted. So that's all on that page. Let's see what happened on this one. I was going to say, too, that we do need to work on the regulatory process. Mina alluded to that. And it's interesting, I was at InterSolar about 10 days ago, and we were talking about energy metering, and that they're going to open up a new docket to do this, to come to net metering 2.0, because they're going to let it go to 5% of the peak loads. And there was all these groans in the audience. I think we may be one up on them in terms of how long it might take stuff to get through the PUCs. I'm not sure I'd place a lot of money on that, but I think we've seen some improvement in the process, at least since I've been involved, which has only been since '96 or so. You have this quasi-judicial situation, lots of testimonies and interrogatories, and it goes on and on for a year or more, and Jerry Samita's almost smiling. And then with the Calabozo Commission, we had introduction of panel discussion. So instead of having lawyers grill individual witnesses and you have discussions all over that, now we were focused on particular issues. And another notch, we improved on this by getting actually out of this kind of formal process into more informal on the reliability standards working group. And I think that's going to be most productive when you get some real experts in the room and you have this kind of meaningful discussion. I think there might also need to be some look at the administrative rules on how, I don't know, does it take an act of God to change the administrative rules, or yeah, okay, all right. So anyway, I'm looking forward that maybe it's likely we'll start some meaningful discussion and what might become a new docket called something like grid modernization. But I'm almost thinking maybe we should have a retreat somewhere to talk about what should be the real issues that we want to address, and then maybe based on some success in, as I mentioned, the RSWG and what we've learned in other dockets, maybe we'll be able to get there. Thank you for this opportunity to make some comments.
Inspired discussion. Let's see if the questions are inspired. 48 of them. As an investor-owned utility, what incentive does HECO management and shareholders have to increase renewables and reduce customer rates? Okay, I guess under existing law. Anyone want to take that?
Sounds
Joe?
like a question for Mike Yamani. No? Okay. I mean, the incentive we have is the incentive that, we want to please our customers. We want to have a sustainable business model. We want to obviously be relevant in the future. So if we don't manage our costs and provide a cleaner energy future, I think we'll become irrelevant. So the incentive we have is, what we're showing right now, what we're seeing right now is renewable can be integrated ultimately at a lower cost than traditional forms of, the generation we're using right now. We think ultimately, once we get the technology in place, once we have some, I think there is a healthy discussion on our regulatory model. I think there is, clear opportunity. We can increase renewables and ultimately over time reduce customer rates.
Mike, you want to take a look at that from KIUC point of view?
Well, I won't comment on what the IOU incentive. I'll just comment on what KIUC's incentive is. Basically, that's what our board of directors want. And our board of directors are elected by their members, so that's what the members want. Okay. And that's our strategic plan. So.
Okay, Warren?
Yeah, I think some time back, through various dockets, we ended up going a couple new directions. One was the energy efficiency work, also referred to as demand-side management. That was taken away basically from the utility, and everybody's familiar. If they look at their bill real hard, there's a public benefits fund, and that funds the group Hawaii Energy with Steve Chang and Ray Starling at the helm. And so that provided a new avenue for customers to get individual help. But then there was still this rub, as Carl would say, between the desire to do more renewables and how that fit with shareholder needs in particular. And so it started back in that DSM docket, the discussion on decoupling. And this is where you want to decouple profits from sales. So the traditional utility, the load's growing, they have to build more power plants to meet the demand, right? And so they make money by selling electricity and also importantly by making those investments. The decoupling essentially has a mechanism called the rate adjustment mechanism that allows them basically to seek raises every year rather than waiting every 3 years to have a rate case, or more appropriately, we were looking at a regime where you're going to have rate cases every year. So the feeling was that decoupling was going to remove or give them some incentive. Actually, what it did was remove a disincentive. So I think, if you remember what I said about performance incentives, I think that's the next step. In other words, there's still not a real reason for the answer to this question to be yes, I think. Oh, you're on the second question.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we're one question ahead of you, Warren.
Yeah. So in other words, we have to get the incentives properly aligned with what it is we want. So if you're moving away from the old paradigm to new one, it's as simple or as harder as that. So I don't know how long this is going to take, but maybe Mina might
Sherry, you want to add anything?
I'm going to summarize for Warren, or translate for Warren. We have the decoupling mechanism, so that's the incentive. What we're trying to better address is the performance standards that are required because they have the incentives. So that's the part that needs work on.
Okay, we'll move to the next question. How will grid modernization costs be mitigated so as not to hit ratepayers, assuming that can be done? Anyone take away? Joe?
Might as well. I think like a lot of the challenges we face, a lot of the issues we face, nothing can be considered in a vacuum. So in terms of grid modernization, yes, we need to invest to make our grid more vibrant, more responsive, and be a 21st century communication tool, actually. But there are other things we can produce along the way. Obviously, investments in the grid, we think ultimately will produce benefits. It will make our grid more efficient. It will make our operations more efficient. At the same time, if we can preserve and gain savings through bringing in liquid natural gas, that will create some room to make some of those investments. Ultimately, I think it's a question of timing as well. We do have to make investments. We think we'll get benefits from doing that, and we understand ultimately ratepayers can't pay for everything. We have to make some reasoned choices.
Mike, you want to take a whack at that?
Sure. From Casey's perspective, I don't know anywhere else it's going to go, except if we have grants from the federal government or the state. Member-owned, member-operated, consumer, ratepayer, same person. Somebody's got to bear the cost, and it's ultimately going to be the membership. That's why we're very prudent on any type of contracts or RFPs that we look at, because we know we're looking at 20-year commitment for everybody on Kauai.
Anyone else?
One quick sentence. I think in the Clean Energy Initiative is recognized there's a lot of investment that's going to have to be made to get us to be more renewable. And I think the sidebar to that was that if a lot of this is non-utility investment, then customers still pay for it. But if you're reducing the cost because you're eliminating the fuel cost, then over a long time, then I believe will at least stabilize, if not reduce, the cost compared to what they are today.
I think, as we move forward, yes, we are going to make a lot of new investments. And, the key to mitigating the costs is how to maximize and optimize all of the assets that we're bringing onto the system.
Okay, we'll go next question. How long do you imagine LNG will serve as a bridge fuel? Is there a time frame? What's the plan? What, if any, is the phase-out strategy? Joe, you again, I think.
Thank you. That's one of the things we're looking at right now. In devising where we think the utility should be, we're developing. We have to look at all our different options. We are looking at that right now as a bridge fuel. How long that's going to last, we think. Honestly, it's hard to say. I think we need to know a little bit more. We don't see any decrease or lack of need for some type of liquid fuel in our system in the next couple of years, obviously, and maybe longer than that. So that's a question we're grappling with right now. More to follow.
Mike?
When you look at our projections for our RPS, we're looking at meeting the 50% very soon. And if you look at the hydro potential, we're looking at potentially 70% by 2020. I don't know if LNG is a bridge fuel for us. Obviously, the 30%, I'm looking at conventional generations. Whether they're run with LNG, biofuels, biodiesel, to us, it's what's going to be the best value for our members at that time.
Yeah, I agree
Anyone
with-
else on the bridge
I
with
think
LNG?
Mike's right. A lot depends on how long it's going to take. And if you're going to get to renewables by 2030, does that mean a period where you might could use LNG for 10 years? Is that going to make for a viable business proposition, or after we go through the planning and whatnot, and maybe there's other answers depending on how long it's going to take in the transition?
Okay. Last question because of our timing. Remember, though, that all the questions, in this case 56 questions, we're keeping. You can have them if you put your email address at the end of the day on the LiveSIFT website, and we'll cover them in Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum live talk show every Wednesday, 4 to 5. We'll try to cover as many of these as we can at that time. So last question. How, this sounds like you, Mina, how do you see the role of the PUC in the future of energy regulation in Hawaii? Don't hold back.
I mean, I don't see the role changing very much, but how we respond. I mean, you know, we are there to promote the public interest in you know, addressing again the performance of our utilities. So you know, I think that function will remain the same. It's, you know, how we address that role in a timely way and making the adapting to a changing environment.
Anyone else?
I think the keys are to make sure they stay, well, first get fully staffed and then stay there with the right people and the right resources, and they can pay for experts when they need them and so forth. But I think the PUC has to become, I want to use the word more nimble, words I should say, and then maybe the way they do business does change over time, as I kind of mentioned in my my talk, and maybe that'll take some legislation, because we're kind of in this paradigm now where it's, again, quasi-judicial, and that's the way we've been doing business up till now. But if we think maybe more like doing it as a business, then maybe that'll give us a clue on where to go next.
Thank you, Warren. Oh,
maybe
Mina?
we could put it this way, that the key role in protecting the public interest does not change, but the tools that we use to meet that role should be adaptable to the times.
Okay, well put. Okay, we have 3 questions that you guys would put to the audience here. How Hawaii Energy Utilities are owned, managed, and regulated. So see if you can answer the choices available on that or rank them. What are the choices? Okay. Okay.
One guy said,
Okay. Whoops.
oh, it went down.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds. Anybody want to make an answer to that? Do it now. Okay, I think gives us the idea. Let's go to the next question posed by the panel to the audience. What needs the most improvement for energy utilities? I guess that's communication with what? The public? Government. Okay. Okay, ooh, interesting how it changes. This is livesift.com. Alex Burglar right over there making this happen. Okay, put in your answers if you haven't. Otherwise, I think this gives us a handle on what you guys think. And the third question. Select the best way for the utility to communicate with you. Good. Social media.
Oh, first guy. Yeah.
There's always got to be a social media question. Okay.
Oh, I went down. We went down real quick. Down at the bottom.
Direct email. Very interesting.
Bill Stuffers.
Okay, that gives us an idea. Well, thank you, panel. Thank you for your comments, your remarks, your inspired view of the future, about the future of the utility of the future. And thank you for asking those questions. And thank to everybody for answering them. Thanks very much. We're going to move on.
Break. We're supposed to have a break now.
Next panel is clean transportation. Really important.
Is there a break here?
Oh, is there? Oh, yeah. We have a 10-minute break. So right after you come back, we'll go to the next panel, clean transportation. All right.
Okay.
It's all up to you now.
Yep. I presume presentations will be up here. Presentations, we were doing the shifting from here, or are they doing it down there?
Presentation here.
Yeah, okay.
And then during the panel, you can sit together on the
No,
table.
I'm talking about the PowerPoint. I'll do.
Oh, they're doing it down there.
Oh, okay.
But you have a
A mouse.
clicker.
Okay, good. Wow, you're good. Yeah, good.
So basically, I just roll through my presentation. It's going to be good.
Yeah, you go through and you can just go up there, come back down, and then there'll be questions and answers like that.
Okay.
And they sure to speak like this when the questions.
Okay.
Funny,
Hey.
it looks like Ford.
Yep. He bailed on Friday. So, sorry. Stuck with me. You can leave now. You can leave now.
No, you have to stay.
You can leave now. It's good.
No,
I will not hold it against you. Don't worry.
This will increase the questions.
No. Hey.
Joanne.
How are you? Is Mike here? The senator? It is. Yeah. You should move out here because the people over there can't. Well, I'm going to be standing up front at first. Okay, that's good. So she's in the middle. Yep. Oh, you know what you're doing? Yeah, and I'll be up here, and then I'll be passing it down to whomever at the top. Okay, I better check if it's going to work.
Okay, the break is over. Can you guys come back in, please? Can somebody at the door please advise the people in the passageway that it's time for them to come in? This is our transportation panel. Clean transportation, mind the gaps from policy to implementation. And we switched this panel with the previous panel because we were waiting for Joanne Yukimura to get in, and she just arrived from Bulgaria, and that is why we put it at this time. Okay, the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative does not let us off the hook on transportation. Right. Oh, no. After all, more than half the fossil fuel we consume is consumed in, guess what, transportation. The biggest users are the big transport movers, planes and ships. We can't do much about them, so we focus on ground transportation. We tried hard to get all the people here who are working on getting us closer to clean energy and transportation. We're going to begin with Liz Fisher from the U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration, who's in charge of transportation planning and emergency management for Hawaii and the Pacific region. Then we're going to have discussants from the state and county perspectives. Note that the state director today of transportation is represented by Deputy Director Jadine Urasaki, who has a big responsibility for overseeing the capital improvement program and operation and special maintenance programs for the harbors, highways, and airports divisions. I wish I had $1 for every dollar she has to spend. Oh, $2. And she manages the administrative planning and budgeting offices as well as the engineering functions of the department. And from the county perspective, Councilmember Joanne Yukimura to tell us what can be done at the local level and what the challenges are in getting there with some good action points. We're always interested in action points on how to overcome those challenges and get closer to clean transportation. So why don't we begin with Liz Fisher? It's all yours, Liz Fisher.
Thank you, Jay. And I'm going to be saying some things that might not make Jay very happy, but that's okay. It's going to make others in the group happy. So with that in mind, set your standards, Jay, and hang on, guys. It's going to be a fun little roll. Mind the gap. Policy to implementation. Mind the gap is a transportation term for transit. For that space, which we'll find out in a couple years, between the boarding platform and the rail car. It's used pretty much around the world, so that's where this comes from. It's what are those spaces that we need to fill? What do we need to watch out for? So that's what comes to mind in this presentation. Well, we've got some good bases, legislative, policy stuff from the federal all the way down to the local level. I'm not going to read this. These slides, I believe, will be available after this workshop is done. So that's when you can go take a look, read up, and by the way, pick up on the web links that are on most of these slides so you can go get the actual resources and source documents where a lot of the reports and information comes from. Bottom line is transportation options are out there. They are supported from the highest, most levels of federal government, not just U.S. Department of Transportation, but across departments. EPA, HUD, Health and Human Services. And by the way, it filters down to the state level just as much. State Department of Health, state DBED, state DOT, Office of Planning, others more and more, and all the way down here to City and County of Honolulu, Kauai County, Maui County, Hawaii County. It's here. Options are available to us. These are just some of the resources that's out there that say we can do what we're talking about today. So when we're talking about bridging the gap, it's not just transportation and hard infrastructure, the things for which Jadine is responsible. It also goes to the non-infrastructure options. And those non-infrastructure options you've already been hearing about today. You've also been hearing about those infrastructure options. So there is stuff out there that we can do to move to green. And it's very important to think about how do we take what we've done and where do we go forward so that we can be more sustainable. In our realm of funding options, this is where we're going to come into a little bit of headbutting. And I use the southern euphemism on purpose because it's kind of painful and it is going to hurt, because when we have higher energy efficiency and less vehicle miles traveled, it means that transportation infrastructure, the construction that Jadine and I are supported by, that we help make happen, we don't have the money to pay for it. So we have to come up with what other options are out there and look at how do we get to green energy and transportation, but at the same time afford to do what needs to be done to take care of what we have. Currently, the Federal Highway Trust Fund is, we're waiting for Congress to put an $11 billion recharge into it because we ran out of money. There are options that are being investigated. Oregon, for example, has a pay-per-mile of vehicle miles traveled tax. It's a great idea. They're liking it, but there are issues with that. In Olympia, Washington, thanks to Jim Lazar and some information he shared, locally they're paying for sidewalks through a utility tax. Whoa, that's kind of different, but hey, we got to think out of the box and look at options. So that's where I say keep these ideas in mind. We'll discuss them at the end of this. So in the transportation realm, again, mind the gap. So we're going to move into making this thing work. Mode shift. Bicycle, pedestrian. Coming here in Honolulu, we've got King Street Cycle Track. That is going to be, for the first part of it, a one-way bicycle lane on King Street here in town, so that bicycle commuters and drivers can become accustomed to the idea that there is a space that is protected for bicycles, that is using the same facility, the same space that motorists are using. Very important stuff to think about, getting people ready to change. Bicycle plan implementation. Here on Oahu, lots of implementation going on. Very important to note. Something else important to note that I didn't show on here, but is very important to note and give huge accolades to State DOT for, is the statewide pedestrian plan. First in the country to focus on pedestrian needs at a state level. That is huge. Very, very huge. Impressive document. Has already received some national awards. Accolades to HDOT. This is the kind of stuff out of the box, get into a different place thinking we need to go. Transit. City and county, we've got great paper and cash-only system on our bus. But with the rail coming, well, now we're talking smart cards, and this makes it easier for people visiting and resident to be able to get from point A to point B efficiently without having to carry a pocket full of change and dollar bills to use the transit system. Car and bike share. Well, we got bike share coming, part thanks to this group and the effort that this group made in the legislative action in the last several years. Thank you for not only as a motorist, not only as a pedestrian, but also for the bicyclist that I used to be, that I want to be again, because actions like that make people want to be able to go back out and use the system. And there is word and conversation about doing car share, which is Zipcar, GoCar. They're coming and in conversation, and I believe Enterprise, one of our sponsors, is been part of that system mainland and may even be talking about it more here. I haven't talked to them today about it. Mode shift. Okay. Jay, there is no one silver bullet, no one solution for everybody. We have to be flexible. It can't just be one. And this graphic, by the way, the report from which this graphic came was just released 2 weeks ago. And it's an international document. The link is available on the on my slides, and you can get to it later. But here I'm showing that it's not any one solution in any city. Melbourne, London, here in New York City, I mean, these are some of the cities shown here. Not one solution is the best one for any particular place. Transit works better somewhere, bikes work somewhere else. So keeping that in mind, it's not one solution. It takes many. It takes that village. What we're doing in Federal Highway, for example, is we're actually looking specifically at non-motorized transportation options. And we have a pilot that is working specifically with communities across the country and states to look at mode share shift, moving mode from just motorized vehicles to bicycle, to pedestrian, to transit. This is not just for good energy, it's for congestion mitigation, it's for economics. It also goes into health and public safety. These are all the core things that we need to be talking about. Energy is just one piece of that big puzzle, and we have to realize that this community in this room right here is a very important part of the conversation, but this is where you guys, we all need to go with the Department of Health for active living, where we need to work with HUD for affordable housing and accessibility to housing, because all of these things come together in one happy, strange, but truly related family because of transportation being the link between them each. Complete streets, this is one of the key things that's been happening here in the state. Act 54 implemented it. State DOT has a really good research a report on that. The counties are implementing, and it's important just to say this is what's going on. But on the right-hand side at the bottom, it's state of Virginia has a secondary street acceptance requirement. This goes to their design standards. This is important for the engineering side of the house of how do we make our roads safe for all users, and how do we adjust the gold standard for cars and make it the gold standard for everyone. And that's a really important document because, by the way, Virginia is a really conservative DOT. And that they've come up with this in the Commonwealth is important to note. Something else that's really important in transportation on the infrastructure side is asset management. How do we plan for, budget, take care of, strategize, and implement what is going to get us the best bang for the buck? And where this group fits in is partly in Minding the Gap is completing that last mile. The last mile for access from car to home, to jobs, to services, by walking, by biking, by transit, by pogo stick, whatever you need to do, how are we going to get there? Interesting connections. Asset management, we have to think about very carefully because we're all about now, because everybody's money is tight, is how do we get, again, the best bang for our buck? How do we maintain and take care of what we have? How many here on Oahu have just experienced the joys of H1 reconstruction? Raise your hand. Come on. Stretch them high. Stretch them high. Say thank you. That's maintenance. Maybe a little delayed, but it happened. And this is good because it was overdue and it was needed. This is asset management. This is take care of what we've got, and it's going to last a longer time. Instead of filling the potholes, it's been done right, and will last a long time. Here are the proposed stations. By the way, this came from a report that you heard about this morning. It too is available online. And just bike share Honolulu and you'll get to it. We are talking the urban core of Honolulu, from downtown all the way to Waikiki and up to UH. So keep that in mind. It's going to make it so that people can get where they need to go without having to drive a car or get you somewhere you got to go faster and more efficiently. Some of the benefits in the initial phase, we're talking about public health. I kind of like the statistic that somebody put in here from the report. How many hamburgers got used up, burned up by exercising annually? I'm like, how about my musubi? Or better yet, my loco moco in the morning. Now that's when we can have a good relationship to what kind of calories we're burning. But that said, there is vehicle miles saved. There are, in the case of greenhouse gases, significant reductions for greenhouse gases going down annually. Increase in jobs, permanent and temporary. So the conservative estimates are, and this goes to our economics, the long-term health of the community, the resilience of the community is an economy. Comes from energy, comes from transportation. Increase in business opportunities, retail space near stations, the bike stations, and potential savings from reduced driving. Okay, maybe the car people won't get money, but somebody else will. It's a shift in the economy. Things to think about. This stuff is available. I just wanted to say, hey, there are savings. Bike share is one of the opportunities we have. From the non-infrastructure side, okay, this is one that's going to make some people unhappy. Sorry, another report, actually, it was just released in the last month. But this is from Washington DOT, Washington State DOT. They were looking at natural gas vehicles. Significant cost benefit over petroleum. In some cases, if it's set up properly, say if your house has natural gas coming to it, you can actually top off your vehicle from your house with the right equipment. Just like you do with PV, plug it in. Well, you can plug your car in with natural gas. Pretty cool, huh? And most importantly for greenhouse gas reduction is that it is less carbon intensive. Very important if we want to reduce, improve our air quality. The challenges. Significant infrastructure investment. There was one piece of another study that I read that said for fleet, and this is more on the commercial side fleet, for a fleet recharging station, $700,000 to $1.4 million just for a fleet natural gas installation. Gas station kind of installations, slightly less. That's the kind of investment we would have to think about doing for natural gas vehicles. Very expensive. Limited fleet. For personal uses, equipment is underpowered, and for families who want to carry stuff to go to the beach when we don't have brown water days, you don't have enough room in them to carry the blankets, the coolers, the grills, the stuff that we who live in here Hawaii kind of need to have space for. So it would be, what are your options there? The really interesting piece that I found was sources to pay for and replace the motor fueled vehicles. Moving quickly, this is the one that also goes in vehicle fuel economy. We talk about vehicle fuel efficiency, and for petrochem fueled equipment, that's some pretty interesting statistics right there. Gas cars, vehicles have all gone up dramatically. So just take a look at that. One thing that we've talked about and heard about this morning a little bit was some of the innovations in technology. This report just out from Hawaii Island, and that link in the report cover there, is looking at data communications use for streamlining transit operations. If anything, better communications. We heard from from the energy folks about how they're applying. Same thing can be done in transit. And also, who's at the table to help make this happen? Public partnering, private partnering, innovations out of the box. Land use development, also very important. We have tools that are available between USDOT and HUD for affordable living. Where do you build your houses? Where do you live in places that will get you to job more cost effectively? Because it's not just transportation when you have to figure your housing costs. I mean, it's not your housing costs. You also had to add transportation into when you're evaluating. Here in Honolulu, we also have the TODS planning, transit-oriented development. Very important. HART has a lot on that. City and county has a lot on that. Go to their resources. But the one I want to spend just a couple minutes on before we end is commuter benefits. This is where I think this group needs to focus. This is the benefit of employers saying, okay, to my employees, how are we going to get the best bang for our buck to help people find options for transportation, bicycling, transit, carpool, what have you. This has been around for a while. We think that it could strongly benefit Hawaii. And it all involves in telework, alternate and flexible work schedules, transportation benefits, as in a pre-tax benefit to the employee for taking transit in an alternate mode, carpool, vanpool, bike ped too. And the services would include use of smart cards, which all, by the way, would be bike share friendly, transit friendly, HART, rail, park and ride lot friendly. This is what most of the systems mainland are doing. It's complete transportation system integration. One card, all your money in one place, go. Tools for accessing, we've got San Francisco as an example. This is how they've benefited 4,000 employers. They have approximately 100,000 participants in the program. Those are some significant numbers for San Francisco, which does have air quality issues. It also has traffic congestion issues. Not like here, but they have their own. And then just we've got some comparison of San Francisco and Honolulu, how we could benefit. And with all the stuff that's coming here to Hawaii, and particularly here to Oahu, it's really important to note, hey, we've got some models we can build upon, take advantage of, and do our own thing, but not create a new wheel. So what are the actions we need to take? First and foremost, it's culture change. It's getting people in their minds out of cars. It's taking people from the idea that you can change the way you do your regular business and it can still meet your needs as well as the needs of the community. It's also practice, practice, practice. It means, okay, so I don't take my car today, but maybe I can take my bike. Or if I need to go across town to that meeting, I can take a bike share bike. But if I have to go further, maybe I will just take that car share car ride over. Whatever it is, have to get things done. Key is, what's our return on investment? And that we find out through metrics that are now required of state DOTs and local governments, which is what we're calling performance-based planning and programming, which means reasonable targets have to be set for project development, for projects that are going forward for funding, that any activity that's going for transportation has to have, it's got to be reasonable, it's got to be necessary, and that we can meet that up. Something, and I'm sorry that Jackie's not here any longer, but the governor announced last week or the week before the Aloha Challenge, and there is a huge amount of possibility within that to make transportation alternatives go forward. So finally, with next steps, well, we need to identify who's got to be part of the conversation. You guys are it. Coordinating existing materials and resources. Well, you guys have those too. And you also have the capacity to help identify where those resources are that are specific to this place and identify what components are going to work best for here. So with that, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Jay Dean, but I just want to remind you that no matter what language you speak, we all have opportunity, and I mean no matter what language of transportation you speak, we all have opportunity to look at different ways of getting from point A to point B to reduce our fuel intake, but at the same time, be healthy about it. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Judy Norasaki, Deputy Director for the Department of Transportation. Let's see if this works first. Okay. So we're good. We're having some technical difficulties earlier. So just to highlight our Hawaii DOT policy. In 2008, this document sets the goals and objectives that guides all of our 3 divisions within the Department of Transportation, our airports, our harbors, and our highways, in terms of, you know, how we do our plans and our master plans for each of the modes. Of the 8 Hawaii statewide transportation planning goals, the goals relating to energy states that the support of the state energy goal of 70% clean energy, which includes 40% produced by renewable energy and 30% from increased energy efficiency, enhancing the reliability and security of energy sources. Associated with these goals are the 5 objectives, and similarly, you can go ahead and read this later. But these objectives, again, help facilitate our master plans for each of the 3 divisions. So upon that, we have implementation. Just want to highlight a couple of key points. For our airports division, significantly, we're going to be cutting energy use by 49% savings. So that comes out to about $518 million in energy costs over the next 20 years. So this is an initiative that we are undertaking. This is about replacement of 372 transformers, 74,000 plus light fixtures, 9,100 solar panel systems, upgrades to our air conditioning systems. $150 million contract was awarded to Johnson Controls, and we are continuing to move forward with this energy performance contracting. Also at the Honolulu International Airport, we have our Diamond Head Concourse air conditioning chiller plant. The new air conditioning system is going to be 50% more energy efficient. Once the per year. We also have our photovoltaic power systems at 8 of our facilities statewide. And some of the simple things we've done at our airports is our cell phone waiting areas. Again, these cell phone waiting areas reduces the amount of driving and traffic congestion around our airports. Again, a very simple adjustment we've done at our airport systems. And just to kind of highlight what Liz mentioned in her speech in terms of car sharing, you know, this past legislative session, Governor did approve a bill in supporting car sharing initiatives, and the surcharge on all car share vehicles were 25 cents per each half hour, or a maximum of $3 per day. For our highways, we have our long-range transportation regional plans as well as our statewide plans, goals and objectives, and this is still in the draft process. We should be finishing and finalizing by August, September of this year. But this long-range multimodal land transportation plan for our federal highway system addresses future transportation needs for freight, motorists, transit, bicyclists, and pedestrians based on land use and socioeconomic projections going out to 2035. And some of those planning factors relating to energy are environment and sustainability, modal integration, economic vitality, system efficiency, management and operations, and transportation access mobility. Just to highlight a little bit of what Liz talked about in terms of highway funding. So the big ticket item on everybody's agenda statewide, nationally, for all the state DOTs as well as the federal agencies is the Highway Trust Fund and the status of the Highway Trust Fund. So on a national level, the gasoline fuel tax has been the effective mechanism for funding all of the highway maintenance for decades. Again, with everybody going alternate fuel and electric vehicles to be more efficient, of course, the amount of revenues that are being generated is not enough to fulfill the needs that are out there on a national level. That being said, and with Congress not moving forward yet on passing any resolution or any bill to sustain the Highway Trust Fund come August of this year, there is some uncertainty as to what all the states will be doing. And so it's sort of a wait and see for all the states. But that being said, the last time this happened was in 2010. They did pass a resolution to move forward at that time by borrowing money from the federal general fund. So we are hopeful that somewhere between the House and the Senate on the congressional level that there'll be some resolution before we run out of money. And of course, all states will have to make those decisions based on those limited funds in terms of how we move forward in all of our infrastructure projects. In terms of fuel consumption, so for the amount of use of fuel that is generated, this is from the Department of Taxation in terms of information that they give to us in terms of fuel usage. It shows, roughly what the trend has been and where it is moving in terms of diesel and alternate fuels. And so there is a significant changeover in terms of the diesel and alternate fuel usage. And so we are seeing that trend here as well. And of course, our fuel tax revenues are also declining each year. So again, one of the things that have been stable for us that we were able to work with the legislature in 2011 was passing the vehicle registration fee and the weight tax. And so that has been constant, and that has allowed us to move forward in supporting our program. But again, the fuel tax is on everybody's mind currently. And that pretty much sums up what I have, and I know I'm getting timed out, so thank you. I'll turn it over to Joanne at this time.
If it's all right, I'm going to stand here and want to say aloha to you all. I don't have a PowerPoint a presentation per se. I just have a few slides to illustrate some of my points. So I'll just be drawing on them as I come to the points. I want to say first that I'm really honored to be on a panel with Liz and Jadine. I've always admired Liz's depth of public policy understanding. And Jadine is known, she has a reputation for getting the job done, so she's somebody good to have on our clean energy goals side. The focus of this forum is how to reduce our state's large and dangerous dependency on fossil fuels. And the focus of this panel is how to reduce Hawaii's annual land transportation consumption of 500 million gallons per year of liquid fuels, mostly fossil fuels. In this kind of situation, we're a very unresilient community and state. If fossil fuels stop tomorrow, we'll be in a disaster. So the Hawaii Clean Energy Goal is a 25% reduction in liquid fuels, fossil fuels usage by 2035, which means 235 million gallons per year reduction. And the first year was 2013, projected was get the 2013 statistics, but I do know that vehicle miles traveled, which is a fossil fuel correlate, went up slightly. So we missed on 2013 goal. So you know that if you're trying to change the status quo, oh, thank you for somebody who's doing this. Hold on, though, don't move this. Or can we go back to the first VMT slide? Oh, okay, that's the first one. Thanks. So you know that if you're trying to change the status quo, you can't just let things go as usual, right? You need a plan. You need a strategic plan because you're going against the flow. So do we have a plan? Does anybody know if we have a plan to reduce our fossil fuel usage, liquid fuels, ground transportation usage by 235 million gallons per year by 2035? We don't have a plan. Do we have a plan? Okay. So on Kauai, we do have a plan. And our plan will achieve our share of HCEI's goal. It will reduce, we have a plan to reduce our transportation fuel usage by 27% by 2035. But we cannot do it without DOT's help. And occupancy vehicle, SOV, to other to transit, walking, and biking, other modes of land transportation is really the way to go. And we have a strategy that gives incentives and support for transit, walking, and biking. The good news is that the cultural shift that Liz is talking about is actually happening. Where they can, I repeat, where they can, people are driving less. And you can see this in the VMT, vehicle miles traveled. So this is national figures, which shows that total VMT is from 2000 to 2012 increased, but if you look at the next slide, 2006 to 2012, masked a little bit by the increase in commercial truck VMT, there's been a drop in all vehicles and in personal vehicles VMT. And if you look at per capita VMT, there's been a drop even in the 2000 to 2012, in 2006, even greater. And look at Hawaii. We have increased our vehicle miles of travel in 2000 to 2012, but 2006 looks what's beginning to happen. So, and look at per capita, it's really decreasing. So, it makes sense because on demographic and market data, rising gas prices are making people more price conscious. Eric Nordmeyer is a state employee. He lives in Hanapepe. He works in Lihue. He rides the bus and saves about $2,500 per year. And he also gets healthy because he walks from the bus stop to his home about a mile every day. And he loves the bus. Young people prefer transit because they like to work on all their electronic gear. Elderly population, this is the slide I wanted to show, is a growing percentage of our population. And if you're like me, I had to take the keys away from my mom, the car keys. You know, it's such a hard thing to do, but if they have transit that they can use easily, the transition's much better. And even the baby boomers like me are moving to a mode. Larry Dill, our county engineer, rides the bus every day. So the correlate of driving less is that there's more use of transit. And if we are going to meet demand, the demand for transit is huge. It's growing. So let me see now. We are on Kauai. We're turning people away. Our bus drives up. It has people standing. They can't take more people safely. They open the doors. They say, sorry, you have to wait for the next bus. That's like 1 hour later. So, you know, we need to, and when we put bike racks on, the number of bike users just increased tremendously. When we increased it to our service to 10 o'clock, ridership just shot up. So the limitation is not attitude, it's infrastructure and services. If you requires a vision, and our vision is 1,000% increase in bus ridership over the next 25 years. 20 years, sorry. And we are going to keep our VMT stable. So vision, plan, and funding. We have the vision. We have a partial plan, though, because the DOT's roads are not within our jurisdiction, so our plan doesn't cover them, and we really need DOT's partnership. so our goal is to keep our vehicle miles traveled even as we grow in population and commerce. And that means we have to do a mode shift to our bus system. You'll see that from 2010 to 2014, we're already increasing our ridership. Those are actual figures, and then those are projected figures, 1,000% increase in ridership. But you see where most of the congestion is. It's on the highway, the state DOT highways. These are the 5 highest traffic volume places, and they're all on the DOT roads. So we really need their help. And so we also need funding. And the funding, in our minds, is a 0.5% excise tax earmarked for transit, just like city and county has for their rail system. The neighbor island counties need it. And Kauai County is not the only place where their transit ridership is growing. It's growing on the other 2 neighbor island counties as well. But look at this. This is from our multimodal land transportation plan. This is the only multimodal plan in the state. And you'll see that we're going to, so you see on the right-hand side, there's a preferred, that's our vision. And then the left-hand red is the baseline. If you look at vehicle, annual gallons of motor fuel consumption per capita, that's the 4th item. Sorry, I don't know how to use this pointer. Is you'll see that if we go with the preferred scenario, we will double our savings in motor fuel consumption. And so, the good news for Kauai is that if we make the shift, we will have we'll be supporting a robust economy, because we'll be taking cars off the road and we'll have access, transportation access to jobs. We'll also be creating a lot of jobs. And we'll have a fossil fuel reduction. We'll make our HCEI ground transportation goal. We'll lower the cost of living for families. You'll see annual average household transportation costs will drop by 6% instead of increase. And also, we will meeting minimal levels of physical activity is also going to go up, and our greenhouse gas reduction will double. So long ago, I'm closing, this is my last comments. Hunter Lovins, who was of the Rocky Mountain Institute, she was one of the early pioneers in sustainability, came to talk to us in Kauai, and she said, when you find a strategy that addresses multiple problems, you're really onto something. And the wonderful thing about modal shift and smart growth is it's win, 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 win. So we need everyone's help, and we ask for your kokua in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. So we're going to go to some questions now. Let's see how many questions we have. 15 questions. You know, you can ask questions while something else is on the screen. It's okay. So let's see what question our question vetting group has selected first. That's not a question. If cannot, we'll just walk around and pass the mic. Oh, here's one. Oh, that's interesting. So, who on the panel would like to take this one? Okay. Sorry, but you'll never get me out of my car. I'll fight you if you do. So what are you going to do to change my mind?
Actually, we're not trying to change your mind. We're going to make the roads more pleasant for you to drive your car on, because there are a lot of other people besides you who want to ride the bus. And if we can get them in the bus, it'll be more room for the trucks and those who need their cars to get around, and those like you who want to stay in your car. But when gas gets to $5 or $6 or $7 a gallon, you might change your mind.
Anybody else want that? No, Joanne speaks for all of you. What ideas do you have for us to motivate our employers to adopt alternative transportation policies? How are we going to do that, Joanne?
So the county just approved a flexi benefits plan that it includes bus transportation, public transportation. So in addition now to childcare and medical benefits, people can pay their public transportation costs with pre-tax monies. And so that's going to be one benefit. And actually the state employees are now lobbying on Kauai so they can do the same thing. We've also done a bulk purchase with the Kauai Community College. And so now every student, I think it's like UH Manoa, they pay $20 a semester, and they get a bus pass for that whole semester for $20. Now, if they don't ride the bus, they don't get the value of it, but it's a deal. And that's how we're trying to encourage bus ridership.
Liz?
At the, I think that's on. At the national level, it's as much the employers, it's a good thing to do, but it also helps the low-income employees. And it's one of those benefits that it's a win-win. The employer has an employee who doesn't have that added level of stress of how am I getting from point A to point B, how do I afford to do point A to point B, much less put food on the table, et cetera. So that's one of the really important things. It does help those who are more economically disadvantaged. It gives them an up, and it also takes care of the other folks. And it really is a win-win because, as Joanne just said, it's a tax benefit because it's a pre-tax deduction or benefit to everyone. And bottom line, it's just good. I use it.
Can I
Small silver bullet. Yeah.
Small, whatever it takes.
Can I add to that? We have terrible parking problems in Poipu, and the Hyatt employees, park all over the place. And if we can find an easy, cheap way for them to use transit, a convenient way is transit is already cheap, but a convenient way for them to come to work, it will solve the employer's parking problem.
And that actually goes to something we used to have a very formalized van pool program here in the state. And on Big Island in particular, when you have most of the population who resides over Hilo and then commutes over to Kona side and Kailua Town, that is a major issue. Some of the hotels are actually sponsoring hotel vans that come daily between that's the private sector solution for the private sector. Doesn't have to be just government.
Okay, we got another one. Electric vehicle or natural gas vehicle, which appears to be an optimal solution, if either, for Hawaii. What do you think, Joanne?
Well, I drive a Leaf, and I almost didn't get to the airport today from Princeville because we just don't have enough chargers around Kauai. So there are some problems that have to be solved, and Ben Sullivan can tell you because he runs our chargers for Kauai County. But, I don't think either vehicle is going to be, I don't think we're going to solve the problem with vehicles. They'll be part of the solution, but they're not.
Okay, next question. What long-term plans does the state DOT, this must be yours, Jadine, have to integrate with Kauai's community vision as expressed in their land transportation plan?
So, like I mentioned earlier, we have our regional long-range transportation plans that we have been working on for each of the islands as well as statewide. So for each of the islands, we integrate all of that particular county's land use plans, multimodal plans, like for the island of Kauai. And so those are being incorporated into our regional long-range transportation plan.
And Joanne, you would welcome this, right?
I have asked that our plan be actually included in the long-range land transportation plan. The initial answer was no, but maybe it's changed, and that would be delightful. I want to say, though, that the state's plan for its highways does not give enough guidance and does not really support transit right now. So I'm hoping that there's going to be more ways to cooperate and coordinate with the state, because as you see, the state highways are the most used of all highways, and they need to be multimodal. They need to have the bus shelters everywhere, although thank you by KCC. They recently put in bus shelters, which we're so thankful for. But that has to happen along the whole state highway system. And wherever we can, I believe the state DOT funnels a lot of transit, or money's qualified for transit to the counties, and we could use a lot more help there.
Next one. Has an analysis been conducted to verify economic maximum and technological maximum of possible reduction of fossil fuels for transportation?
I've done a lot of national research, and I have not seen that one.
We've looked at what is the most strategic way to reduce fossil fuel usage in our ground transportation system, and modal shift is it. And when you do that, the economic value of that is tremendous, just in terms of the amount of lesser oil you have to import and the amount of money that goes out to pay for that oil, but also in terms of functionality of our ground transportation system, the time saved because congestion will lessen through a modal shift. I mean, that's what Honolulu's trying to do with rail. We need to do it much, much earlier than Honolulu did.
You're our test bed. Okay. Next one. Oh. How do we reduce transportation energy consumption and vehicle trips while relying on tourism as the primary economic industry? Doesn't that involve changes in tourism?
Yeah, guess what? We call it bike share and car share opportunities, and transit from airport and ports to the general tourist central locations, hotels, what have you. And then we already have good system of the tour buses and the small jitneys that get people around, thinking specifically of Oahu, but neighbor island as well. Bike share is a very important piece that definitely is going to work well here on Oahu. And just because you're from neighbor island doesn't mean that it's not going to happen elsewhere. Starting here, but go to the central core and major population centers of the other islands too. That's how this program's being set up. So I think that answers that question. Look at the options.
So you know that our multimodal land transportation plan, it was done by nationally renowned consultant Jim Chalier, who has done work on Kauai. And Jim tells us that the multimodal plan will help tourism be competitive, will help Hawaii be competitive in the tourist industry, because visitors are looking for places where they can walk and bike. That's why Oklahoma City's putting in 100 miles of bikeways. That's the competitive edge. And our beautiful Kealahele Makalai on the East Coast, which is a bike path, is a huge visitor to draw. It's gotten Kauai great publicity all over the country.
Okay, here's one that Ray Starling must love. Ray, am I right? I'm right. Do we need a public benefits fee administrator like Hawaii Energy in the electricity sector for transportation too? Wouldn't that work well? Thoughts?
I think what's needed is more a system or infrastructural change rather than individual household efficiencies. I think what we need is a really great multimodal land transportation system. So I'm not sure how the public administrator will work in that situation.
All right, after the program, you got to go network with Ray Starling over there. He's going to answer that in his own way. Our next one. With 2,000 electric vehicles on the road in Oahu, is there really any impact yet on highway funding, especially given their lightweight versus trucks, heavy cars, what have you? Is there a distinction being made here?
Right now, yeah, there's about 2,000 to 3,000 electric vehicles. But again, just looking at the projection of what's happening nationally in terms of the fuel taxes, we are seeing that decrease in the fuel tax itself. Electric vehicles are heavier than the regular motor vehicles, so they are getting taxed the way they are getting taxed. But we are seeing from the fuel tax side, and that again affects the federal dollars on the Highway Trust Fund.
I think it'd be worthwhile looking at an analysis of what is causing the reduction in the fuel tax, because I think it might be mainly the vehicle miles traveled. That means less gas being used. It'd be really good to see what comes from vehicle miles traveled, what comes from electric cars, etc.
And it goes back to that slide that I showed where there was a fuel efficiency increase since the 70s that basically is a logarithmic increase. And that increase is still going. It includes the EVs, but it also includes the petrochem-powered vehicles, which includes natural gas. So just to say that's part of the challenge is that higher efficiency, that also is reduced fuel taxes. VMT reduction, reduced fuel taxes.
Okay, next question. Interesting. Really hot question. Where do technologies like Uber and Lyft, that is, car share is the wrong word, but taxi on command, taxi or not taxi on command, where does Uber and Lyft fit into the transportation planning effort? Big question.
I think they're just one of the solutions. It's just one of the options. It's car share, it's bike share, it's commuter choice. And we heard those, choice has been the big word that we've heard in this room today, and I think that's just one of them.
Okay. Next question? Say? Okay, last question. Is that what you're saying?
That was it.
Oh. Okay, nice work, gentlemen. Okay, now we're going to go to the questions that the panel has for the audience, right? We have 3 of them. First, new measures to improve transportation should focus. Okay, reducing vehicle miles, increasing efficiency, increasing and improving. I don't know what. Looks like reducing vehicle miles has it. Okay. All right, that gives us a handle on where that goes. Good work. Next question. Prioritize the next steps to improve transportation. Whoa. Interagency cooperation. Now, mind you, these are questions from these guys and your answers. Okay. Whoops. No, I think that's probably going to be the final. Okay. Whoop. If you want to vote, vote now. Whoop. It's close. It's head to head. Whoa. Who's doing that? Okay, it looks like it's settled down. Multimodal transportation and the winner. Okay, third one. Hawaii should fund innovative transportation initiative via, can't read the rest. Oh, via is the question. So how? There you go. That's a big spread. It's a bigger spread. Okay. All right, very interesting. As I mentioned before, if you want copies of this, you can get them. Just put your email in at the end of the program. Joanne Yokimura. Lovely discussion. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to take 6 minutes now and then come back and we'll have our wraparound panel, which I think you'll really enjoy.
Need your help on the land transportation, Kyle.
Talk about like the whole damn system. No, but you know, like,
you don't want it on slideshow because the text, it's all images. So you want the text, and this is what you want. That's the summary slide of everything I do.
got it. Alicia, Jim, Alicia. CEO of the gas company, Jim, curmudgeon, par excellence. No, energy expert and good Lord transfer. Famous in many jurisdictions, seriously. Yeah. And hopefully someone will see more of it. Yeah. Any way you want. And have a whole thing. We're not going to go, they couldn't, whatever, technology's not going to work for us. We're going to.
So we should go sit in the order of our.
Yeah. We have an order? Let's do it. Yes, you want to do that? That's great. Your number 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Last. And then I caught you, not last, I come back.
Oh, okay.
You do yours and then I come back. How are you?
Okay.
Good. Well, I know, after all that work, I mean, we were all so late. But I didn't like be disrespectful, not like everyone's, you know.
I know.
But anyway, it's all right. I'll be more organized as panel chair for April. Okay. The university.
Okay. So I should just put my stuff here. I'm going to go.
Yeah, I'm not going to get to it. We're on the water.
Did you work for the gas company before?
I worked for CA at a gas co-rate place. Long time. schedule, I think every hour there is this week. I hope we're down to the final.
It was all good, and then now trying to coordinate with other things.
Yeah, first was going to be, well, never going to be today. First was going to be Monday afternoon, and then I got tangled up with the CA for 6 hours. Yeah, one up from 8:30 to 3. CA and most of the staff. It was good. So, push Isaac aside. Then he was at 1-3, and I had 3 o'clock. Okay. And then we're going to move to Thursday, and then family thing came up on Thursday. And then we moved to Wednesday before I'm taping the show with this guy, and then we move that back for the plan to work weekend.
Yeah.
It means I'm not going to miss with Thursday afternoon. It's just be up at 2 o'clock. Go circling in the morning. 11:30 at this camp.
He's going to supply lunch.
He's going to supply lunch. Right, yeah. Somebody's going to tell me where his conference room is.
Pretty close. A couple blocks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you the address.
Send me the address.
Okay, we're going to go to the last panel now. This is the wraparound panel, I call it. So I can see you guys are getting in the mood for the poo-poo party. You're starting to do that, locomotive networking already. Give it a few minutes and you can really go down that track. Okay, we're calling it, great title. Ben, can you ask the people in the corridor to come in? We're calling this panel, Implementing Clean Energy, What Must Happen. It's the normative. Okay, the transportation panel was great. It's good that we have an energetic panel represented by all 3 levels of government, as you will notice. I hope we can keep this discussion going about transportation. We're going to hear more about that and other things in this panel coming. I was excited about all the panels, but this panel is the one I am most anxious to hear from. This panel will tell it like it is, right? Tell it like it is, and I am confident it will lead to us doing something just great. The organizer is none other than the systems thinking person at Ulupono Initiative, who was excited himself to put the panel together, and that is Kyle Data. He's joined by a full gamut of energy thinkers. Mark Glick from the State Energy Office, you saw him earlier. Jeff Michelina, CEO of Blue Planet Foundation, and Alicia Moy, President and CEO of Hawaii Gas. Okay, Kyle, you've been thinking about this for weeks, months. Kyle Data, thank you very much. Take it away.
Thank you. Aloha and good afternoon to everybody. And thanks for sticking around for this last panel. We really are going to talk and focus about action. And, Jim started out this discussion saying, failure is not an option. Well, inaction is not an option either, because inaction means that we accept failure. And the failure to act is going to create a tremendous penalty upon all of us. We finally reached that point of urgency where we have to address the energy system, because the infrastructure is aging, we have real environmental complaints. All the joys and all the concerns that causes are here at our doorstep. And we will take the charge, and we have to rise to that challenge. So I want to remind us all that energy is a system. Commissioner Akiba calls it the energy ecosystem, and she's right. It's a rich system with new parts, and we have to look at the whole barrel. We have to think about the electric side of the barrel, the transportation side of the barrel, the aviation side of the barrel, and really think through an infrastructure that will support us into this next century, that will endure. This is the thing that we as leaders are going to collectively work together to build. This will be our legacy, all of our legacy, all of you, everyone here. This is what we're doing in this time. So I'm really honored to have the panelists speak to you. Mark is going to talk about transportation. Jeff is going to talk to you about the things that are really different about the customers. Alicia is going to talk about the infrastructure choices and the new infrastructures that are possible and what they enable. And then I'll come back and sum up and try to pull together some of the points around regulation, how this thing wraps together. And then we'll show you, I kind of pulled the audience, probably don't do the slide right now, about some of the actions we think that we should take now to get this ball rolling. So with that, let me turn it over to Mark.
Thanks a lot, Kyle. It's really exciting to talk about kind of the stepchild of the Clean Energy Initiative, which is transportation. We've actually been working on it for a long time, and many of you may know that Hawaii actually leads the nation in the number of fueling facilities, EV fueling facilities per capita, and certainly in the rate of adoption of EVs. So in that sector, we've done a lot, and we do have some really great hydrogen test programs. But today I'm going to talk about the role of the transportation sector, more about where we need to head. And obviously, you've heard the statistics. It's more than half of our energy mix. Now, when the original HCEI roadmap was published in 2011, it contained some very, very aggressive targets for reductions in the consumption of gasoline and diesel in ground transportation. And it employed various strategies, including reducing the vehicle miles traveled, expanding the use of renewable fuels, and accelerating the deployment of electric and hydrogen vehicles, as I mentioned. Now, much of the state-led efforts to date have involved the work in the EV side and in promoting biofuels for ground transportation. Now, one of the strategies improving vehicle efficiency, which is a crucial, important element, is really beyond our control. It's largely outside of our control. So moving to the next phase of HCI will require a fresh look at the challenges facing us. And we'll build on the work of the past, but while we'll recommit ourselves to the mission to be a national and world leader in clean energy policy, technological innovation, and alliance building, much as we have done in the power sector. Solutions be expanded to alternatives such as natural gas and renewable methane, while placing greater emphasis on the reduction of petroleum-based fuels in aviation and marine transportation. Marine and aviation had really been off the chart on the original HCI. Now, natural gas has been talked about as a potential bridge fuel in the power sector, but it also has great potential for use in transportation. I think we'll hear a bit more about that from Alicia. So a big part of the updated transportation strategy will be use of an intense planning methodology known as a charrette. And we'll bring together, it'll just be of petroleum-based fuels in the Hawaii transportation system. Now, it really can be kind of summarized in 4 blocks. We'll be joined by a world-class partner in this endeavor, and we've contracted with the International Council for Clean Transportation out of San Francisco. They've done a number of these plans around the world. The effort here will be led by former California EPA Secretary Alan Lloyd, who was prior to that, he was the chairman of the California Air Resources Board. And I got to know him when he was chief scientist at the South Coast Air Quality Management District and helped transform Los Angeles's air quality. And as you know, in the case of Los Angeles, it was primarily based on transportation solutions. So I think we'll have someone with the breadth and depth of experience to be able to advise us and to be able to call on case studies. And so there will be the critical assessment in these various options, qualitative evaluation, and a development of a short list of recommended tactics, and a strategy review. We'll have all the experts talk about what can be and cannot be done here, what's realistic, and then a deliverable where we'll rank the 3 to 10 priority tactics. The agenda will engage energy and transportation stakeholders to provide a reality check, and by when. Part of that will include analyzing and reporting on the transportation sector of the HCI roadmap, the 2011 edition. We'll take a candid appraisal of what we've accomplished so far, and then basically what are the things that we kind of believe are the unrealistic expectations, and identify the public and private investments designed to encourage growth and production of transportation technologies. But I think a key thing this time is it's going to be involving a broader group of players. Obviously, the Department of Transportation at the state and federal level are really key. They weren't really involved much in the previous discussions, and there are a whole host of other key players that we want to engage in both the public and private sector. And the Environmental Protection Agency, which has done such a good job on dealing with some of the programs you heard about this morning, bike lanes and others, vehicle mile travel efforts are things that they're highly engaged on pursuing and have great experience, will be, I think, a key player in this effort as well. And so I think, by engaging those stakeholders, the stakeholder meetings will, as a first step, this will be, I think, a key departure of where we were. We'll review recommendations and facilitate the discussion leading to a consensus on what strategies should be pushed in the near term and the overall scope of a new transportation agenda. I think another big important part of this will be setting realistic timeframes. There are certainly things that we can do in the near term, and I'd say within the next 12 to 24 months,